Hello and welcome back to the Octave Leap channel. It's me, Dave, here, and you may notice I look a little bit different. First of all, I'm in Bali in this cool jungle art commune where I am currently crafting so many new ideas because I just finished a 6-day water fast. And this has been all part of a much longer journey this year through health. You know, I did a solar return reading on myself at the beginning of the year. And I said, this is my year to take care of health. And I had actually been letting it slide for a little while. I've been so immersed in work and moving overseas and exploring all sorts of new quantum ideas and building out Trifecta and, you know, getting so caught up in the astrological world that I hadn't been tending to my body as much. So when I saw it was a 6th house year, I knew I had to change gears. And this year has brought me a lot of synchronicities. You know, when we accept what we need to do at a given time and we look at our transits for the coming year and we start to move in harmony with them in synchronization, that's where a lot of magic happens. It almost seems like a miraculous flow. And so even though, you know, tending to health can be, you know, a challenging endeavor for some, this one is actually quite enjoyable and quite euphoric. In March, I got a big download about taking a trip around the world. So I left my home in Salt Spring Island, went to Mexico for 2 months, started to enjoy the sun, the beach, walking around, eating lots of fruit. Then I did a retreat in Costa Rica and I got invited to speak at an event in LA that led to me being invited to a neuroscientist conference in October to speak again. And I won a detox retreat, which was this 6-day water fast here in Bali. And one of the coolest things that came out of this retreat was they measured my biological signature before and after. So before, I'm 41 years old, before my biological age was 50 years old. So, you know, inside, even though I looked young and fresh and smiley and all that kind of stuff, inside, my body was actually aging. And after the water fast and after a lot of these processes, I reduced my biological age to 30 years old. So internally right now, my body is that of a 30-year-old, which is quite an endeavor. That's quite an inner transformation. And with that comes a deeper feeling of clarity and a deeper feeling of being able to get up in the morning and wake up early and start my morning practice and feel really good and want to nourish my body with living foods. And so that creates a positive spiral loop. And not only that, but I also work with the hologram of what ideal health looks like. So every day I sit down and I call in my hologram to absorb the rhythm and the energy of what my ideal health looks like. And so then that usually presents things in my reality. New opportunities are spotted that come in synchronistically to help me find that. And this is something that we can all do. This is, in fact, when I ran the Rise container a few months ago, this is what I was teaching people how to do, how to work with your hologram. Your hologram is your self-identity. It's, you know, the current hologram you have is an aggregate of everything you're doing in your life, but you should also have a destination, right? So the destination is who you want to become next. You know, what is that vision you have for yourself? What are you doing? What service are you having? What are you embodying? And then when you start to tap into that vision and absorb the rhythm and the energy of it, naturally, your life starts to move in that direction, right? In this, I always say this, but like, you know, a seed contains the blueprint for becoming a tree, right? And so as long as that seed is in fertile ground and gets enough water, the seed will know how to grow into the tree. And similarly, you know, the difference with humans is we get to choose what hologram we become. You know, do we want to be a very successful, adventurous, compassionate, abundant person, or do we want to embody the hologram of a couch potato? You know, a lot of people don't choose who they're becoming. They let the circumstances of their life choose that for them. And when that happens, and they end up trying to make a change by pushing and hustling and, getting angry. They're like, well, I have such good intentions. You know, I've got this idea of what I want to do. You know, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of my clients, they have big dreams. They have this feeling of a life purpose that they want to bring forth. And they see it, but it just never seems to materialize. It's like they get to a certain point and it self-sabotages. And that's because of two reasons. One reason is they haven't resolved their hidden inner blocks. When I talk about inner blocks, they're not just body, emotions, mind. They're body, emotions, mind, life force, or the pranic layer, the biophotonic layer, the genetic blocks that we exist, and the actual blocks in the hologram. And the higher up this hierarchy that you go, the more of an impact you get. So if you start with the hologram and you define who it is you want to become, and you're able to really tap into that in detail, then that begins to reshape the DNA. The DNA is like an antenna for morphic fields or energetic fields that are flying around. And so the hologram tunes it like a radio station to pick up on different frequency bandwidths. So you naturally begin to emit hormonal signals and pheromones that attract certain things into your life. It's fascinating. When I came across this concept of multidimensional health, it was game changing because I realized how easy it is. If you have diseases in the body and you start with the holographic layer, you can heal yourself. That's what Joe Dispenza did. If you read his story, he basically was in a terrible bike accident, and he SUV plowed into him at 100 miles an hour, and his back was shattered in, I think, like a million different places. And he's lying in the hospitals, and the doctors are trying to basically stitch him back together with, iron plates. And he's like, no, I'm going to try something else. And he tuned into the hologram of himself with a perfect back. And he said the day he felt it was the day he felt all the vertebrae of his spine go cook, 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 and reassembled themselves. And, I don't really follow his work too much, but I know his story because I've found my own ways to work with the holographic layer to actualize miracles. That's what it's about. It's about doing the extraordinary very easily. And when we work with the holographic layer, we can reshape reality. Some things are, if I said I wanted to be 12 feet tall, that might take, a couple hundred years to get there. It's not like everything happens tomorrow. We always have to mind the gap between where we are now and the gap between where we want to go. But this year, my hologram has been very consistently on health. And so, in 3 months, I lost 35 pounds and 20 years of my biological age. That's how fast things can happen. And I got to enjoy myself too. I didn't have to give up all the delicious foods. I even had, some days where I didn't do much exercise and that type of thing. I've been traveling. I've been enjoying myself at the same time. But the focus has been on the direction of better health. And this can be applied to anything. It doesn't have to be health. This can be relationships. This could be in your purpose or your career. This can be overcoming inner blockages. And so that brings me to the second thing. The second thing is people don't have a clear idea of who they need to become in order to make the impact that they want to make possible. And let's face it, you can only step into a deeper calling in your life purpose and make that purpose happen when you have a clear vision of who you're going to become, and you've rectified all that stands between where you are now and that version of yourself. So if you don't have a clear idea, you'll either likely stay stuck or you'll just keep shopping around. I know I talked to somebody today, I had a client, and they're just like, I've been bouncing from this to this to this to this to this. It's exhausting. It's like you get excited about something, and then all of a sudden you move on. You lose interest, and then you kind of keep going back to square one. Similarly, other people know exactly what they want to do, but every time they take a step forward to do it, they don't trust themselves at a deep enough level to make it happen. So the best efforts that they have are self-sabotaged, and then they end up wondering why, something that felt so aligned ended in disappointment. It's because in order for that alignment to come through, it also has a cost associated. And that cost is we have to be able to transmute those inner blocks. We don't just let go of things. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in a lot of healing work and spirituality, is that people think, I need to let go. No, you need to release it and transmute it and then harness that energy. Otherwise, you're tossing it away. And, the universe just doesn't like that, because that's not how it functions. The universe functions on being very energy efficient. So with what's happening in the world right now, we don't really have much time or energy to waste, because we're basically in an era where you can see the noise is getting pretty loud out there. And this is really calling us to step up into a radical new form of conscious leadership. And this is something that I'm living. This is something I live each day the best way possible. I still make mistakes. I still take missteps, of course, but the majority of what I do is in this direction of fearless, conscious leadership. And as a result of that, nature provides bountifully for me, provides opportunities, provides places to stay along my travels. I've been to Mexico, Costa Rica, LA, New Zealand, Australia, Bali, in just a matter of 3 months. And all along the way, there's been so many serendipitous moments and so many synchronicities, like finding this luxurious spa in New Zealand that combines ancient Maori healing traditions with futuristic luxury, and then getting a discount and a media pass on the thing. Like it's amazing to receive this, because I'm in the slipstream or the flow of where I should be. And this is really how we're meant to operate. We're not meant to push hard and come up against resistance all the time. The resistance is often there to tell us, okay, it's time to take a step back and to reevaluate your efforts. Because honestly, we have 3 trillion volts of potential inside of us. If that voltage aligns consistently in one direction, it'll move mountains. And so we just need to know, what do we need to do to regroup and to move whatever mountain or obstacle out of the way for ourselves? And in order to do this, we need to know ourselves on a fundamental level so that we can forge a clear identity of who we want to become next. Now, when I use Trifecta is sort of a living diagnostic tool of where your past karmas or your sticking points lie in your ancestry and your genetics from past lives. And it also shows you what your potential is at the various degrees of that potential. So you can keep coming back to it over and over again. And it's different than tropical systems, because tropical systems very much tell you who you are in this world. But the Trifecta, it tells you the nature of your hologram or your higher self. And when you begin to attune to that, you're operating at an even higher stage. And that higher stage allows you to unlock even more of that voltage that resides within you. And so then it becomes very easy, if you're in business, to, add another 10, 20, 30K per month to your business without any strategy or without any extra effort, because every decision you make is super clear, is super precise, and it comes with the potency of pure presence. You don't have to go through as many trial and errors, because you're constantly getting the data stream or the download from your higher self of what to do next. And so you end up living in this supercharged type of way where everything sort of just clicks into place for you. And, what we call that the zone of genius, essentially. Now, obviously we misstep. Obviously there are times where we don't get the signal, or the conditioning comes back into play, but we're able to get back on track a lot easier. And so Trifecta is the diagnostic tool, and the second stage is running the actual processes. So where are the blockages, these hidden blockages in you? A lot of spiritual systems, they work on the airy-fairy energetic levels, but what about those blocks that are in your physical body? What I found was I went for a spinal flow treatment, and I found this kink in my upper back that's been there a long time. And that was actually holding the story in place, the story of grief, the story of a lack of intimacy with myself and in my relationships that was expressing a very, very old pattern. It wasn't even mine. It was an ancestral pattern. And when I released it, I was able to tap into the energy that lay beneath it and be even more effective with my clients, and even more transparent and present with my personal relations. And so the body holds the story. The emotional wiring holds the story. The subconscious and the nervous system holds the story. The currents, the meridians and channels in the body of life force, they hold the story. Same with the genetics. And so the process is, once we've mapped out where our potential lies, what our challenges are, then it's running these processes to actually undo that. And this can happen very quickly, and most therapies out there, conventional therapies are only like you're trying to chemically rebalance the body. So they don't always work, or they take a very long time. Same with, psychological tools. It's like they only work with the mind. They don't work with what comes before the mind. Similarly, spiritual tools don't usually work with the embodiment layer. But when you combine both, the quantum and the somatic, the quantum somatics in a way. Maybe that's a new thing I'm inventing here. That's where you're able to get through the full spectrum. And so you take care of the parts that the body needs to resolve, and you take care of the parts that the spiritual nature of ourselves need to resolve. And then things happen very quickly. Then when you want something, it's like you hold your hand out and there it is. And so answers and solutions and whatever you need to create is right there for you. And if you run into a challenge, you're very resilient and able to adapt your way around it. And so that's really what I've been crafting. Not just for myself. I mean, I often go through this first and then I reverse engineer it and I help other people with it. But that's sort of the basis for what I've created next in the way that I'm working with people. So I'm sharing with you how to do it. And if you wanted support with that, you can obviously get support with this. I'm offering something called Encoded for Impact that walks you through this process. So the first process is we run Trifecta to diagnose these challenges, the past life hooks, also your potential, what's going to light you up the most, and then create a bespoke a system of processes to resolve those things and get you operating in the frequency of that deeper calling, in the frequency of creator beingness. So this is really cool, and this has all been coming through during my water fast and before my water fast. But it's basically been such a cool journey. There's been so many internal shifts and external, just beautiful moments. Life really, really feels awesome right now. And I know there's like the threat of thermonuclear war and, microplastics and disasters happening around the world. And I'm not negating any of those, but they're not affecting me. They're not stopping the force that I'm generating to have a positive impact in the world and resolve these things, to do my part, my little part in purifying the larger collective suffering that's at play on this planet right now. And this is really what we're all called to do in our own way. Now, some people are going to be more hands-on on the ground, and other people like myself are going to be supporting the leaders who have a calling in their own way to go out and do that. So if you have any interest in chatting with me about Encoded for Impact to learn more about this, I've got a free connection call in the description below where you can learn more and you can hear about this awesome new system and see if it's right for you. And, in this call too, I'll just share with you, I'll give you a mini rundown of where you're currently at and what your primary blocks are. And when you resolve those, what's going to basically move the needle the most for you. So that's my little gift to you. Anyway, hope to see you soon, and stay tuned to the channel because very soon I'm going to have some really great human design, astrology, and trifecta content coming out. Take care.